And we're back with some more Minotaur Hotel. This episode is going to finish off what was actually in the previous build, and then we get into some new stuff. If you hadn't heard, just very recently there was a new build with a whole lot of stuff in it, so we'll be getting to that soon, at least part of it. There's a lot of choices in the new update, and you can do different things, so I'm going to do my usual thing with the videos, just do one version of it. Otherwise we'll be backwards and forwards and no one will know what's going on anymore. But if you do get hold of Minotaur Hotel yourself, play it, you have all those different options you can go through. And you can see all the changes that will happen. It's really worth playing yourself. This is just a taster of what you get when I do it. Speaking of which, let's go back to where we finished off, and Kota has just taken over in the lounge. We head into Chapter 7, A Moment of Weakness. You spend the rest of the day with Asterion and Kota in the lounge, admiring the changing decor, sharing drinks and exchanging stories. Kota had some interesting stories to tell about his life on the road. He recounted some of yours in turn, that project you worked on, the instrument you tried to learn, that Renaissance painter you liked, and the one you hated. Asterion kept quiet for most of the conversation about past experiences. His brief answers made clear his apprehension about sharing his story with Kota. Still, the Minotaur had his shy smile on throughout the whole night. As soon as the topic turned back to anything less personal, he'd rejoin the conversation. With the aid of a few glasses of wine, Asterion's posture relaxed. Slouched on his chair, eyes half closed, he was afloat in a sea of bliss. Eventually it started getting late and you bid Kota farewell. You and Asterion, meanwhile, returned to the master's quarters. Asterion stumbles about with you, drowsy but happy. He hums and sways his head back and forth. His hooves add a rhythm which echoes through the hallways. When he looks back to you, his one eye has a faint glimmer. A long day, huh? Oh yes, indeed. It's been so long. Well, time demanded its due. So much has changed. Peculiar faces, a different lounge, a whole new time. But I feel like I used to back then, surrounded by friends, talking well into the night. I have a purpose again. I cannot thank you enough. It's nothing. No, it is quite something. It is a high honor to serve you, Master. While we're at it, there's something about which I should inform you. It is your right as Master to know, as my duty as Keeper to inform you. Remember that story I told in the lounge? Oh, which one? You told so many. The one about Master Robert and his son Master Bernard, who I helped raise? Now, where should I start? I asked you today if you liked how I looked when I tried on my clothes. That was not a trivial question. The Master has a right to determine how the Keeper should look. That, of course, includes how I should present myself, what my uniform should be. But it goes deeper than that. During Master Bernard's mandate, he deemed that I should have white fur. Before arriving, he used a physician, you see, and believed it would convey cleanliness. Meanwhile, Master Robert always wanted me to have black fur, even as a child. He thought I looked respectable and imposing like that, and that he too would seem powerful when riding on my back. I suspect with time Master Robert insisted I have black fur solely to annoy his father. The two of them bickered about it quite often. They'd even exchanged jabs about it during dinner. But when the father was on his deathbed, he requested a moment to talk, in private, with each and every one of his descendants. Well, not so private in reality. I stayed by the bedside to annotate his will, to make sure each and every one would have their corresponding legacy. Midway through, he asked to see me how he remembered me. His son acquiesced, and so I served him until the end. To my unfaltering servant, it's what he wrote in the letter. And Sir Robert, to my childhood playmate. This, too, is the Master's right. You may choose how I should look. The labyrinth's magic will arrange it. By the oath I have sworn, I am obligated to inform. I am bound to instruct you to the best of my abilities on all of the hotel's capacities. So you see, my asking Master what he thought of my clothes, that was not trivial. Your will is in order. Why? I have burdened you terribly, my lord, with my rambling. I prefer not to weigh you down further when there's unsightly knowledge. But to answer your question in a delicate way, as you see, I can be healed quickly. The special wine I drink is used to hasten the process. I am terribly difficult to injure permanently. The labyrinth allows the master to control my form to an extent, with the goal of making it so I would not heal from certain injuries should the master wish it so. I think we should leave it at that. I don't really want to dig into this. I think it's upsetting him. Oh, I suppose Master sees where I'm going with this. What is your will, my lord? So, we have all these choices, but there's only one option that I can really take here. Which one do you want, Asterion? Which colour would you rather be? Excuse me? You heard me. What colour would you rather be? What do you prefer? Master need not worry about what I want. I am the servant. My will shouldn't affect your judgment. But I want to learn more about you. I would appreciate knowing, even if you don't think it matters. The Minotaur sighs and bites his lip. You think you displeased him somehow, but then his smile grows, shy as a blossoming flower. It means a lot to me that you asked. It is very kind of you. It is just, pardon me, I am not used to being asked what I want. The Minotaur turns around and picks up a bottle of wine you had brought from the lounge. With a trained dexterity, he opens it with a corkscrew. Asterion turns back to you, then looks down to the wine glass on the table. He holds a bottle with both hands like one would hold a cross over one's chest. He steps towards the glasses but pauses and puts the bottle to his lips. You can see his Adam's apple bobbing as he drowns his sorrows. When he meets your gaze again, there's a softness in his eyes you hadn't seen before. If Master wishes my honesty, I would be soothed if I knew Master appreciates me. My first colour is secondary at best compared to that. I suppose I struggle with putting this into words. The Masters have commanded me to change to fit their visions. The same goes for how I should act and address them. And I obeyed eagerly, because I thought it would make them like me more. And if they appreciate me, won't they be less likely to send me out to the valley? I will eagerly don whatever colour you wish if it will make Master like me more. Perhaps even prize me. It is not often I have been asked what I want. I am a prisoner after all. Why should the jailer care for my comfort? That you would extend me such consideration, that is reason enough for me to rejoice. In which case it is right I give you an answer, one clearer than what I've told you so far. When I was alive, my fur was white. In my dreams, I still see myself with that same white fur. In the waking world, I look down and sometimes can't withhold a certain surprise to find out it isn't the case. After all those years locked away, I'd even forgotten what my fur colour currently was. If Master wants an answer, that is it. White fur would be nostalgic for me. Still, I'd be happy no matter what, as long as you don't hurt me. Please, don't feel pressure to consider this in your decision. I am already happy you cared enough to ask. Whatever your choice is, I will be cheerful. I won't hurt you. I understand why you're afraid. I could see myself being suspicious of any new masters after what happened to you. My words might not convince right now, but I'll say them nonetheless. I won't hurt you. The Minotaur holds on tightly to his bottle of wine. He looks down and bites his lip. A sudden weight seems to bear down on his back. I am only half full. I am acquainted with the wiles of the human heart. Perhaps Master takes pity on me tonight, for I know how fragile human whims are, how they fade so quickly. I have thought long and hard over those decades locked away, about this hotel, my sentence, my previous masters, and a young boy I knew. He was around my age. His name was Icarus. His father fashioned wings out of beeswax and feathers for the both of them, but Icarus had the hubris of flying too close to the sun. He fell to his death in the sea below, and we met in Hades after my death. I thought about him, that boy. Had I committed the same mistake by allowing myself to be happy? Joy was never my lot in life. Asterion caresses the table like he would a lover. His nails graze against the wood, clicking just loud enough for you to hear. Much like Icarus, I enjoyed a glimpse of freedom. This hotel was my set of wings. A chilly breeze blows in from the window. It sends a shiver down your spine, a sudden stone coldness to Asterion's face. There are promises which cannot be fulfilled, my lord. The hotel knows this well. Not all contracts can be made to have an effect. The labyrinth would not allow one that opposes its stated mission. There was one master who, early in his mandate, tried passing a contract which forbid any and all from harming me. It could not be made to have an effect. The ink would drip off from it. The paper aged and rotted like milk. Worse still, his charity ran out one day. It is easy to offer one gesture of mercy, but have it last requires a special kind of intensity. Power reveals what lays underneath. There are a number of gentle masters who turned sour and grew comfortable with harsh punishments. Even the kindest ones have not shied away from punishing me. It was their mission after all. You and Asterion both stare at each other. He eventually looks away, scratching the left side of his face. Please, forget what I said, my lord. You approach Asterion. You raise your hand and cradle the left side of his face. You run your fingers over his short fur while taking care not to get too close to his injury. Asterion hesitates. With each caress of your fingers, his eyes close further, and he leans his weight against your hand. I promised I wouldn't send you to the valley. And I won't hurt you. Asterion fully supports his weight on your hand. His eyelid flutters as if he was already falling asleep. You lift your other hand and begin petting the right, healthier side of Asterion's face. The Minotaur leans towards you and you scoot closer to balance his weight. You let the Minotaur have his nap until his ear flicks. You give it a gentle rub and his eyes shoot open. Master Leo, I am sorry, I don't know what got to me. It must be the drowsiness. It won't happen again. He remains with his head in your hands. It's fine. How are you feeling now? Oh, I'm well. Good. Asterion hesitates further before prying himself away from you, but with a sigh he does so. Again, I am so sorry. You did nothing wrong. There's no reason for you to say that. As you say, my lord. It's all right, Asterion. I'll be different. Don't you worry. Oh, if Master would allow an impertinent inquiry, did you choose white fur because of what I said? As I explained, I'm happy enough knowing you care to ask. You need not restrict your choice because of me. Anyhow, if white truly is your want, then I gladly obey. Asterion closes his eyes and focuses. Before your eyes, his fur begins to change. Asterion's fur is now a lustrous white colour as per your request. I'm honoured with your choice, Master. Asterion heads to the kitchen to prepare your dinner. From time to time you see him stare into his arms while he's cooking. Maybe he's getting used to his new fur colour. After a while Asterion returns to the table, serves you dinner, and sits on the opposite end of the table as usual. When you look up, you are greeted by Asterion's big, dopey smile. He tries to contain himself, but it ends up with him having to stop his giggling. At times he almost dozes off, still with a smile plastered on his face. You finish your meal. Asterion goes to pick up your dish as usual. This time you left a big chunk for him to have, and he smiles as he heads to the kitchen. You bid each other good night and then head to your respective bedrooms for the night. The following morning, as usual, the sound of Asterion's hooves clopping on the floor and the smell of breakfast wakes you up. You wake up, get dressed and head out of the bedroom. Asterion once again greets you. Good morning, Master. Hope you slept well. After the breakfast routine, this time Asterion serves scrambled eggs, ham and freshly squeezed orange juice. He washes the dishes and returns to you. What are your plans for today, Master? Well, it's still pretty early. I think I'm going to stick around here and tinker with my phone a little, see if I can get it to work. What about you? I think I'll head down to reception, see if we're lucky enough to get any more guests. So soon? Well, I guess Kota got here soon after we lit the hearth, so it's possible. Oh, before I go, what should I wear today, Master? Is my fur colour right? Yep, fur colour is good. Keeping my nose closed. Yep, I think he looks good. What's the matter, Asterion? Well, I'm debating whether I should tell you this or not, but I suppose it must mean a lot to you, but I appreciate the Master has been good to me in one sense. What do you mean? Some of the more ruthless Masters enjoyed humiliating me in many ways. Stripping me down and making me walk on all fours, that was a common one. I may be a hybrid, but I am half human. I'm not a beast. That came to an end, thankfully. In accordance with the contracts written and signed by previous masters, I am forbidden from exposing myself when we're expecting guests. Neither may I establish a relationship with a guest. I'm under a variety of restrictions. Not all of those contracts were written out of kindness, but they were beneficial. I am happy that you haven't attempted to break that rule, Master Leo. Forgive me for bringing up the subject, but I thought it was important that you know. Very well then, I shall head to reception. Asterion leaves and gives you a smile before closing the door behind him. You sit down on the couch, stare at the door and then the window, and think about how to spend your morning. Luke 1. Stargazer and Whiplash, this is another of the characters we're going to meet. The Griffin sits on the damp picnic table, sipping his stale, diluted all-American beer. He hunches forward, supporting his elbows on his knees, and inhales the petrichor wafting from the rain-slick soil. He enjoys every gulp of his lukewarm Bud Light, letting it sit in his beak until all the taste is gone before swallowing. He looks ahead towards Cape Canaveral's launch site to avoid staring at the families nearby. He tells himself to smile. The table is coated in a fine layer of salty water, run onto the mainland from the sea up ahead. That same salty condensation coats the griffin's feathers, fur and beak. His mind hops with each languid blink of his eyes, the lukewarm beer with an aluminium aftertaste, petrichor smell mixed in with grass from the rain, the humming of insects. The catchy pop song blaring from a stereo a few yards away. He taps his feet to the song's rhythm while laying a hand over the front pocket where he keeps his passport. The setting sun glaring at him, he raises a hand to shield his eyes, and looks at the fine men hanging around their families, dancing to the song. He knows he shouldn't. They are married after all. The Griffin can't stop himself from fantasizing. They are stout and hairy and damp from a humid day into the Florida sun. Their shirts have sweat stains. A few of them are wearing tank tops that ride up their bellies, showing off their treasure trails and navels. One of them in particular, a man in his mid-30s wearing khaki knee-high shorts and an unbuttoned dress shirt adorned with a NASA logo, makes the Griffin thirsty. He's grateful for his shades. It's easy to turn your head away while keeping your eyes drilled on the prize. One would guess he's enjoying the pinks and oranges of the setting sun. There's no containing a longing like his. That's a fine man, sure, but it's the shirt that sells it to Griffin. Sure, it's just some gift shop memento. But maybe he's an engineer on his day off. He's always had a thing for smart men like that. What he wouldn't do to taste him, feel him, hear him gush over his latest project. The Griffin opens another beer and chugs it. Even with his eyes closed, he lays a hand on the table and recognizes all the carvings on it dating from decades ago. At times like this, the Griffin avoids thinking in words. It is a danger in eloquence. But he cannot escape them forever. He checks his phone and scrolls over the messages from his ma and siblings, telling him they wouldn't be able to attend this year. Griffin sits on his picnic table, caressing the carvings he left over the years and is assaulted by words. He calls himself Luke. Today he is alone with his own thoughts, and nothing is more terrifying. It's the first time only one of them came over to watch the launch. For decades now their tradition was fulfilled without interruption, a yearly visit to Cape Canaveral to watch a launch. He knows that traditions are powerful, for as long as they remain unbroken. And he's here. Hopefully that'll be enough to keep it going. Next year he'll drag everyone along, even if it's the last thing he'll do. Even if, like today, the launch is cancelled at the last minute. Truth is, seeing the rocket go up is a happy surprise, but it's not at all a necessary part of their tradition. What matters is bringing the family together to remember. The Griffin opens another beer can. He'll keep drinking well into the night, at times sneaking sideways glances at all those fine married straight men, hoping one of them looks back with the same lecherous eyes. If they looked his way, they'd see a painfully average human, an American with hazel hair and somewhat tanned skin. Luke pats his passport once more. How fragile is the illusion that keeps people from seeing his true form. A simple booklet is his main shield against detection. That same little notebook's what keeps all these men from looking at the Griffin and noticing him. It makes him unnoticeable. Were they to look his way, he'd be like a distant memory, a nondescript human shape their minds will glaze over. That is a weight all mythical creatures must carry, he knows. Luke thinks back to his childhood, surrounded by more than a dozen siblings, back at the old farmhouse to the east of Austin. During summer, the entire family would sleep on the porch to cool off. The kids would become a mass of limbs piled together, breathing in unison. The boys in one corner, the girls in the other. Luke and his brothers would look up at the stars and trace constellations. Peter, the eldest, would tell the stories behind each one of them, or make them up, as Luke realised years later when he enlisted to the military and was mocked for thinking Orion was playing a guitar. Tonight Luke cradles his memories. He'll sleep cuddling his picnic table, looking up to the stars he'll never touch. When he speaks, he has the voice of a schoolboy, and he hears Peter telling him all the made-up stories. One can almost forget the hardships and temptations of being an adult at such times. By the time dawn breaks, he'll be a man again on his way home. Driving scares away the words. One's conscious mind turns off, and all that's left is being in the moment. Pure mechanical memory alongside the scent of cracking leather seats. Long drives and thousands of miles never scared Luke. Ever since his 20s, 10 hours on the road or more were always welcome. He has a home, a small cottage in the mountains of a flyover state, 40 miles away from the nearest town. Not a single neighbour, human or otherwise. It wasn't worth it, making the effort to build bonds when he would just be forgotten. That was an effect of the passport and all the charms he used. It disguised the Griffin as a human, but also made people prone to forgetting him. He never remained there for long. The isolation got to him, but neither did he fare well in cities for long. Being forgotten was too much. The cabin was just a place he had the keys for. His car was a better home, although with all the travelling of the years he'd learned not to grow attached to any specific vehicle, even if he took care of them like a son. Home was the road in all of its forms. Usually car, but also train, bus, even hitchhiking. As for a bed, his time in the military taught him the floor is as good as any bed. Although sometimes he lay there at night and wondering, if he was in a bed instead, would there be someone beside him? He looks down to the cup holder to his right. There's his passport, that little blue booklet, his ball and chain. He can't lie to himself. He can't stay long in a single place. He can't speak the truth either. Words he knows are dangerous. For a man such as him, these wordless moments of mechanical memory feel like the closest to paradise he'll ever experience. Just do, be, don't think too hard about it. Reverie such as this can last days, but it is fragile. All it takes is a single unforeseen shift and it shatters, and that's what happens. Far ahead something catches Luke's eye, a man walking beside the road. He doesn't think. The impulse to help a stranger just hops up to the forefront of his mind. He wants to give him a ride. The car comes to a screeching halt. Luke lowers the passenger side window and stretches over to greet the traveller. The Griffin cranes his neck up and down to take a good look at the man, but speaks before he's even seen his face. "Hey you on a ride?" The Griffin is still appraising the man, quite openly in fact. It's been a few days since he's seen any action. Last afternoon at Cape Canaveral only revved his boosters. Luke stares openly at the stranger's crotch. Oh, that's a happy surprise, he thinks. It's not every day a handsome hitchhiker packs his own lunch, a thick length of denim-busting sausage. Now, aren't you a good Samaritan? Don't mind if I do. Samaritan, that's a word Luke hasn't heard before. He keeps his ignorance to himself. The traveller has a stiff accent with sharp consonants and a chirpy, youthful voice. As soon as he enters, Luke's surprised with how well kempt he is. He smells like fresh laundry. That's an even better surprise. It's never sexy when the car ends up smelling like a garbage truck. The two set off together, the radio blaring a sweet jazz tune. Luke sneaks sideways glances at that fine piece of man, barely able to contain a throbbing need in his pants. Not many people nowadays give rides to just anyone they see on the road. That's very kind of you, Mr... Luke, just Luke. What can I say? I don't have the heart to leave someone in the middle of nowhere. I travel a lot, you see. Did a lot of hitchhiking, so I always try to help out and pay it forward. By the way, mister, I'm afraid I didn't get your name either. Jean, that's what my friends call me. Oh, so we're friends already. That was quick. Of course, I've been on the road for a good while too. I can appreciate someone who treats travellers properly. People like us ought to look after each other's needs. Oh, sure, I know how to treat a traveller properly. Luke sneaks another sideways glance to Jean and spreads his legs. The bulge of his erection is plain for the traveller to see. He should go for a blowjob right about now, and give him one, that is. It's not easy giving head when you have a beak, but practice makes perfect. Luke has had a lot of practice. Takes a conscious effort to keep himself from pulling over and going down on Jean. He must have a fine dick, he thinks, but it hardly matters what his dick is like. Any dick is good enough. Luke wonders how Jean likes to fuck. Maybe he'll grab the Griffin's head and go to town. Right down with slobber running down his chest and his feathers all ruffled up. That's how a proper fuck ought to leave you, he thinks, all dishevelled with the taste of cum lingering in your mouth. Maybe Jean's the type to pull out when he's coming. That'd be fine too, having a load drying on his feathers. It's like anyone else would notice since they're already white. Pretty hot if they did. Luke never bothered hiding how much of a slut he is. It's sexy in its own way. He wouldn't mind getting railed either. Bending over the car's burning hood, spreading his legs and letting the stranger make him into a bitch. And nothing beats driving with a load in his guts. Then again, the traveller has such delicate features. It's hard to imagine him as a rough fucker. Maybe he's the kind to make love. Griffin feels the tension rise in the air. His erection strains against his pants. It won't be long now for a wet patch forms on his crotch. His daydream, however, killed the conversation. He wants more of that exotic voice, and to make sure the traveller is up for it. He must be one of those weirdo foreigners, Luke thinks. You have a funny accent, John. Mind telling me where you're from? Oh, I'm from Europe, but you can probably guess I don't live there anymore. I work as a delivery man, so I don't ever stop for long in any single place. In fact, that's why I'm here to begin with. I'm making a delivery to a truck stop a few miles up ahead. You only have to take me that far. You are American, yes? Is that a Texan accent I noticed? Damn right. Born and bred in the Lone Star State and proud veteran to boot. I don't live there anymore, but let me tell you, there's no place quite like it. The men are men for starters, and no food beats ours. I've heard some say New Orleans Cajun food is better, and it's good, don't get me wrong, but nothing compares to our BBQ. Nothing. I've been to Europe, I've had your grub and drank your wine. It ain't too bad, but you're all too classy and stuck up for your own good. Back when I was there, I'd rather have my MREs than the stale bread the French gave us. I don't get all the fusses about baguettes and croissants. Back then they wouldn't even spare us a pat of butter. Never got so good about macarons either. Back when I was in Nancy, all the trade was like cough syrup. French food ain't what it's cracked up to be. The talking makes Luke forget about his raging erection. He's used to being silent and avoiding words, but of course he's almost always on his own and on the move. Prospect of company warms him up and all the words come pouring out. Words aren't so prickly when you have company. And while some, if not most, would feel intimidated or weirded out by Luke's ramblings, the traveller cracks a smile and nods along. Hey, you been to Texas? You need to try cornbread. That's a proper burger with an ice cold Dr. Pepper. Pepsi drinkers get the rope. Good old Texas barbecue too, you have to try it. It's the best in the whole goddamn world and the rest can suck it. I don't know if a fancy European like you can appreciate a proper burger though. Think when you're trying to eat one with a fucking fork and knife. Then again, not a nice band over there in Europe or something. Texas will make a man out of you. Here in Houston, there's so much to see. Mission Control and the Space Center for starters. They have kick-ass pickle pops. You gotta try those. Oh, I've been to Texas before, yes, but I admit I haven't been through all those experiences. I'm sorry. Definitely haven't any Texas barbecue. I'll have to get that sorted out next time. Can't make such a faux pas again. There's another one of those fancy European words. Foul pas, thought the Griffin. Yeah, if you don't mind me asking, what brought you here to Florida? Oh, it's a family reunion. Mom and all my siblings get together once every year to watch a rocket launch. It's our tradition. But the whole thing went to shit. Everyone's too busy this year. I came anyway, of course. Can't let a tradition die. But even the launch left me hanging. The whole thing got delayed. It got me so bummed I decided to just go home early. Usually stop by Fort Lauderdale for a week or two of fun. I figured I wasn't in the mood for it. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And Fort Lauderdale, that's a destination if you want to party. Maybe a more relaxing vacation would do you good. You've already visited France. I'm sorry I had a bad experience, but maybe you should try giving Europe another chance. Rouge is great this time of year. It's like a fairy tale. Is there any place you'd like to visit? Luke thinks before answering. France is out of the question. Same goes for Germany. Italy, perhaps? Or Greece? Yeah, it's that place. I'm 3.125% Greek. You know, that's where my family came from some 20 or 30 generations ago. I mean, sure, I have a lot of Native American in me too, from my mom's side. I always thought of myself as a Greek. I ought to pay Nemea a visit someday, see where my ancestors came from. The Nemean lion, Luke thinks. Large is the gap between how a man sees himself and how he's seen by others. Hitchhiker sees a man, a painfully bland mixed-race American, but through the rearview mirror, Luke sees his true shape. Enchanted passport is all that keeps his true shape hidden. First, don't people say the Greeks were about fucking each other? I gotta see for myself if that tradition still holds. Luke bursts out giggling while Jean watches him quiet. After the Griffin's laughter dies down, he gives the man a sideways glance and feels for the tension in the air. Sombre thoughts, however, pass away quickly. Fresh needs take over the Griffin's mind. Now the conversation's been properly ended, the horniness from earlier week without getting laid throws all his subtlety out the window. He needs Dick now, and he has a hunch this traveller might swing that way. Hey buddy, mind if we make a quick stop? I really need to take a leak. Oh, it's your car, my man. You're in charge. I'll take the chance to have a smoke too. Luke breaks too suddenly, betraying his eagerness. He pockets his passport, checks for oncoming and traffic. There isn't any, and leaps out. The Griffin walks over to Jean's side of the car. With his back towards it, pulls out his dick. He smiles when he hears Jean's door opening and closing, then the clicking of a lighter. Luke spreads his legs and raises his tail ever so slightly. Feels the traveller's gaze drilling him from behind. Jean walks up beside Luke and unzips his pants. Griffin stares at the man's crotch and does his best to ignore the smoke. Doesn't that feel just right, two men pissing outdoors? Jean keeps quiet. You know, you could help you with that. Excuse me? You heard me. How about a second load of your dick right here and now? I don't think you have what it takes. Is that so? I'm kinky. I can take whatever you dish out. Really? Are you sure about that? Luke's expression says it all for the delivery man. Jean lets out a hearty laugh. Very well, don't say I didn't warn you. I'm a man of refined, exquisite tastes. I only take in similarly bold men. You see, I like some good old-fashioned cock and ball torture. Drop your pants, slut. Wait, what? You heard me. Drop your pants and brace yourself. Okay, alright, that's not my thing. You're not so tough now, are you, kitten? I thought you were a man. Can't you take a beating? Jean's bellowing laughter echoes through the wilderness. I'll have you know I can take whatever you dish. I'm not that stupid. Sorry, boy, I just don't feel like getting a blowjob. I don't have a ball-kicking fetish. Just wanted to see you backpedaling. You son of a bitch. The tension in the air is diffused in one fell swoop. They zip amidst their laughter and go back to the truck with arms over each other's shoulders. There's a chaste, soothing glow between the two of them. The rolling road slows down as Luke begins to near the truck stop. The lot is cracked to its edges and the gas pump's covers are speckled with red rust. The truck stop has had its fair share of dust over time. Despite that pale blue panelling and those tarnished window frames, it has remained a roadside hub for the road's regulars. There's still hustle and bustle at the stop after all those years. Truckers talking each other up and down, the lot backside filled by 18-wheelers, and the thick black smoke left behind by pickups as they continue their journeys on the road. Nothing quite like it, I swear. Open the window and take a whiff of that air. As Luke's truck moves over the lot's entrance, Jean rolls down the window. The intermingled smell of gasoline and 24/7 breakfast fills the vehicle. Now that's what I call Americana. Jean coughs hard. His words walking over each other, he quickly rolls the window back up. That's definitely something else, I can safely say. Jean lets out a fizzled and forced laugh, looking a bit sick already. Luke guffaws. He slings an arm over Jean's shoulder, amused by the deliveryman's enthusiasm. Right after parking, the two end up leaving the truck laughing like fools, mocking each other and talking dirty while walking. You know, Luke, I wouldn't mind catching you around again sometime soon. Luke's mind falls to the gutter again. Not like that, Birdbrain. I make deliveries along this route often, you see. There's this hotel reopening a bit further down the road. My employer might send some shipments there soon. I'll be honest, you look like you could use some time off. None of that Fort Lauderdale party life. I'm in a place to cool down for a while. If you do stay a while there, I'm sure we'll end up seeing each other again. And I'd like that, I would. Oh, really? No, I'll take you up on that then. It ain't too common you make friends on the road. And I mean friends that show up at the same diner or rest stop more than every 3 weeks. It's not easy to make conversation you don't see much, especially when half the time they barely remember you. Oh, people have a hard time remembering you? I find that hard to believe. You're very remarkable. It's complicated. You'll see for yourself. It's easier forgetting the people you meet on the road. It's not something we have control over. I must respectfully disagree. I have no issue at all remembering the people I've met on my travels. Well, you'll see. I won't forget you, kitten, especially if you stay a while in that hotel I mentioned. I'll be around there plenty. Someone has to drop crates at that dusty place. We'll see, Luke thinks, already aware of human folly. The goddamn passport in his pocket will make sure Jean forgets about him. The two arrive at the manager's office right by the rest stop's diner. After drop this package off, you should try to get a room there. It certainly looks like it needs the guests. I'll think about it. Hotels can make your wallet drier than Chihuahuan. Well, it is reopening just now. Wouldn't surprise me if they're doing some kind of low rate for the first few guests. Just give me a call or text sometime. The two exchange numbers quickly before Jean extends his hand over to Luke, offering a gentleman's handshake. It was nice meeting you, Luke. I'll see you around, okay? Luke bats the hand away and gives Jean a heavy-handed pat on the back, almost knocking the poor man over. Now that's how you say goodbye to a friend. You take it easy, partner. The two break apart and wave goodbye as they walk away from each other. A man can dream of being remembered and making friends. Hope is delectable on its own, especially when it's foolish. Luke has a smile stretched on his face for taking notice of something more pressing, his hunger. He might as well reward himself being the good Samaritan he is. He turns away from his truck and heads towards the diner. The jingle of the door's bell announces Luke's entrance. A wrinkly-faced waitress welcomes him from the counter, asks for his order, pen in hand. I'll just take a coffee and 2 donuts if you got any. Sure thing, hun. You get comfortable, okay? Luke looks around briefly and notices there aren't too many seats that aren't worn to their stuffing. The only seat, a stained but plush bar stool, lies tight between 2 other men. Their frames are wide enough to overlap the empty seat. And yes, that fade to black was important. I've just cut a rather important scene out just because it's going to be a hard one to get past YouTube, I think. If you played it, you'll know exactly what's been going on. And sorry, developers, I played through it, I know exactly what was going on there, but a little iffy for a channel. Basically, we've had a good insight into what Luke is like, how he's trying to cope and failing to cope, I would say, with his life at the moment. So let's pick it up here. Griffin tells himself it'll all be fine once he's tracing his constellations. He'll feel like a kid and it'll be like being back at Cape Canaveral all over again. He's about to turn the corner when a cigarette stench hits him. The idea of being seen right now brings him no spark of excitement at all. Were he more in control of himself, he would have spun on his heel and walked away. His mind is slow, his legs move on their own, and he stumbles on nothing than Jean enjoying a cigarette. It's dark. Maybe you won't see how much of a disgrace I am, thinks the Griffin. And smoke might hide the scent. Maybe you won't recognise me in the dark. It only takes a moment for Jean to figure out who it is. Luke, is that you? I thought you'd gone already. What are you doing here? Luke has to piece together Jean's answer, then muster together a response. Word by word. I wasn't feeling too good, so I took a nap in my car. Just woke up and went for a cup of coffee. Is that so? The Griffin's voice sounds scratchy and gravelly. He can't stop himself from coughing his lungs out. Funny, I had noticed your car was still parked, but I didn't see you there when I passed by. He takes a long drag from his cigarette and lets his words linger. Luke sits on the ground and shrinks into himself as he cradles his coffee. He dares not look at Jean, or that silhouette in the burning tip of his cigarette shining. Seems like you're catching a cold too. You sound, pardon my bluntness, like shit. Luke sips on his coffee, hoping to give him enough time to recompose himself. But silence lingers, gnawing away at him. Jean holds out for an answer until it becomes too much for the Griffin. And what are you doing here? Weren't you supposed to have left by now? Oh, my right had a few issues. He'll take 1 more hour or so to arrive. So here I am waiting, watching truckers come and go. Lots of commotion tonight. The Griffin's mind crashes and sways like the waves. He remembers how pleasant it was talking with Jean before. Just wishes he had that again. Like earlier in the day, Luke acts before thinking. As the words leave his mouth, he already regrets them. I can give you a ride again. You're good company. I enjoyed the talk. How about that? Luke's stomach sinks, however, as he realises there'd be no way to hide how much he's stinking. Jean will learn, if he hasn't already, what Luke is. Showing off his sexual conquest used to make him proud, but not tonight. Very kind of you, buddy, but I'm going back the way I came. Plus, you look like you really need a rest. Do you remember what I told you? There's a hotel up ahead. Supposedly it's reopening. Maybe you could stay a while. Seems like you need it. Is there someone waiting for you back home? No, I live on my own. And any reason to return quickly? A job, family, obligations? Luke goes back to his coffee and Jean takes the hint. Maybe I should, yeah. I could use some peace and quiet, a change of scenery. There's also a shower here. It's for employees, but I'm buddies with the owner. I have the key with me. I'm sure he'd be fine with you using it. Yeah, I could use a shower. Jean hands him the key. I suppose I should give you privacy now. Jean stomps his cigar. Actually, if you don't mind, would you talk to me for a while longer? Do you know about the constellations and names and their stories? Would it be okay if we talked about them? Look, there's Orion. Hard seeing John's face. Reading if his eyes are covered in shadows, there is a glimmer. Sure, Luke. I know how to read the stars. It's useful. I'll tell you about them. But you promise me you're going to take a break? Whatever you want, as long as you keep talking. Much has changed since Luke was a boy. No more sleeping on the porch in the pile with his brothers. No more listening to the radio after Dad got back from work. No more stargazing with Peter. He's a grown man now, covered in sex and knee-deep in self-loathing, struggling not to still spill coffee from his styrofoam cup while sitting beside the dumpster. The shower will wash away all the gunk, but Jean's voice cleans his mind. When Luke closes his eyes, he can pretend it's Peter, his brother. Griffin struggles not to fall asleep. When Jean's ride arrives, the two say goodbye. It's laconic, even sorrowful. Luke takes his shower and naps in his car, looking out at the stars through the windshield. He's too tired to drive right now. Tonight he holds on to the voice of his brother like he's still a boy. When morning arrives, he'll be a man again, on his way to that hotel he promised to check into. Luke adjusts the rearview mirror. His eyes flash for a moment. He doesn't appreciate seeing himself like that coming out of nowhere. Mirrors, he knows, are dangerous. The engine revs once, twice, thrice for good measure. Luke's claws dig into the steering wheel's leather. The early morning sunlight coming through the windshield warms his chest and grazes his beak. He takes off, sweet mechanical memory. It hardly takes a minute if the Griffins start humming a tune, a fine jazz hit. Washing off all that gunk, a good night's sleep in the back seat, and Jean's talk got him back up and running. Yeah, he could use some time in different scenery. Jean was right. It's not like he has anything better to do, or a job. The scenery shifts quickly. Just as easily Luke jumps from one tune to the next. He speeds up until the car is trembling, its individual parts are shaking, threatening to come undone. More of this sweet danger. And he would have gone further were not for the blocky shape about a minute up ahead. How did he not notice it sooner in this flat desert? He takes his foot off the gas pedal and allows inertia to carry him forward. He's still going fast enough that when he takes a turn into the parking lot, the car swerves and the Griffin is pushed against the door. He cackles with his forehead pressed against the window. The car comes to a halt precisely over the line separating two rows of parking slots. Luke has broken his record by using not one, not two, not three, but 6 spaces simultaneously. His car stereo still blares jazz when he steps out of it. He slams the door to the beat of the song. The tune is no more, but the Griffin crosses the wide expanse of the parking lot, still humming the song, timing his footsteps to the beat. He climbs the steps, clinking his claws on the handrail. The doors swing open as he lays his weight on them, and he seals the deal with a final push that slams him into the walls beyond. Luke's arrival is like a judge's gavel silencing the world around him, and in the ensuing emptiness his stride still follows the jazz beat. Ever since he set out earlier in the morning, he's had this contagious spring in his step. Any given moment he could burst out in laughter or dance. But now, as his eyes adapt to the newfound indoor lighting, he sees the man behind the reception desk, Luke's attitude changes. Luke takes off his glasses. Hey, you! Yes, sir? What the fuck happened to your face? Did a dog chew on it? Excuse me? You heard me? What happened to your face? And what kind of fancy thing did you get an LED in your skull like that? The Minotaur looks down, stuttering out an inaudible response. He bites his lip hard and the rivulet of cold sweat runs down his back. Jesus, you want to look like some cartoon character. You want to rip half your face off. Luke's stride covers the distance between them before the Minotaur has a chance to think of an answer. Griffin puts both of his hands on the desk and leans forward. Keeps his gaze locked on the Minotaur's empty eye socket, examining the flickering flame inside. What a weird little thing you are. What even are you? The Minotaur looks away and covers his face with a second thought. His entire back is covered in cold sweat now. I'm sorry, I know I am. In a flash, Luke's contained laughter bursts out like a dam. Ha! I'm just messing with you, buddy. You should have seen your face right there. Now that must have been one nasty fight you got into, but I've seen and been through worse. I know how it is. You wouldn't know I don't have any scars to show, but yeah, I've been through some shit. Even blown away once or twice. You know those old-timey stick-style grenades? Hurt like a bitch. And there's that one time in... look at me. I almost went on one of my rambles. Could spend all day talking about it, such a fine piece of prime Angus steak as yourself. Well, it doesn't matter. I want to book a room here. The place must be pretty good, right? The Minotaur stumbles at the mention of the hotel. His gaze shows a blossoming warmth, despite all Luke's thrown in his face. Yes, it's quite a marvellous hotel, and I guarantee it will improve. It's very empty now, but it's sure to change in just a few days. I'll hold you that, so where do I sign? What are your rates? Oh yes, just sign here in the ledger and fill in these forms. This is our soft opening. We won't charge you, good sir. Oh, so this place is fancy and cheap? What's the catch then? I'm sorry to say there is no catch. This place has a mission, you see, and, well, we don't ever charge much. A mission? Has some sort of charity? Oh, I suppose that's a way to put it, yes. At least it was for a good while. It's up to the owner. Luke hands over the forms. The Minotaur takes a cursory glance at them. Mr. Lucas Walker, born in October 1923. Your looks are quite misleading. I've never guessed your age. You'd even be old enough to... Oh, you know how it is. Griffins don't age like humans do. I'm from a fine lineage, you see. I'm 3.125% Greek, and my papa was just like me in that regard, barely aged. I see. I'm sorry. I admit I've never met a Griffin before. I don't know how it is, I'm afraid. Well, I could say the same. Never saw a Minotaur myself. I thought you guys were just some old Greek legend. Cretan. Excuse me? A Cretan story, and not Greek. Greece didn't exist when it all happened, about 3,000 years before Christ. Forgive my impertinence. Here's your key, Mr. Walker. Your room is just down the hall. I hope you have an enjoyable stay here with us. Oh, I'm sure I will. I hope to get a taste of Angus beef someday. There we go. That was chapter 7. And we're going to leave things there for now. Luke's just checked in. We have Kota there as well. We'll be getting some new guests soon. So don't forget to check out Minotaur Hotel yourself. It's available on itch. You can download it there. You can play through that scene I skipped over earlier. And I say with all the new stuff you can try out the various options with what's going on and see what happens. So until next time, bye for now.